So if you'd like to hear any lore, and I mean any lore whatsoever, consider checking out the Patreon. Anywhere from the $1 to the $10 Patreon tier, your voice is heard. Yes, your voice is heard weekly when I ask a poll question and you get to choose. You have a voice, a choice in choosing what this week's lore is. And by way of the Ghoulman Entertainment Patreon, this week's lore is on the water merchants from Fallout, the post-nuclear role-playing game, the first one. Now, I've said this for a while as someone who's a fan of apocalypse fiction. When the bombs fall, we as man, the royal we as man, will be looking for about 5 essential things. Food, because you need to eat to live. Cigarettes, which might actually rank higher than food, because if I'm hungry, I could smoke a cigarette and I'm not hungry for 2 to 3 to 4 hours. Sex, because of course, it's going to be a commodity. It already kind of is a commodity, and it's going to be something that is going to be traded. It's going to be something that is sold, much like it is today. Drugs, chems, what have you, because if I can't eat, at least I can go out of my mind for a little while and ignore the world around me. But probably the most important out of the top 5, water. And if you have the water, you have the power. You have all of the control. And that's who we're talking about today, is the water merchants from Fallout, the first Fallout, Fallout 1. Now, they're based in the hub, and they're one of 3 of the biggest caravan traders in the original Fallout. It's the Crimson Caravan, the Fargo traders, and the water merchants. Nobody likes the water merchants, and I think it's really, really funny. We're going to get into it. In the year, and by the way, I just want to say, you guys kind of luck out, because you get a lot of hub lore in this episode. When I wanted to do just the water merchants, you wound up getting a lot of hub lore. In the year 2093, a man named Angus set up a camp in what was a pre-war town. Just a few short years later, the little town/camp would slowly become a new network for commerce. So a fella shows up, puts his little stake in the ground and says, this is where I'm going to be for a while, and I'm gonna make it work. And the way the wiki talks about it, and I get all of my lore off of fallout.fandom.com, the Dukapedia, if you will, the way the wiki talks about it is he's almost like doing it reluctantly. Like, he didn't do it on purpose, but, you know, wherever the dominoes fall, they lie. And that's kind of how it feels, again, from reading it off of that, inferring it off of the wiki, how it feels is he just started popping up and doing these things and saying, well, I'll do this and I'll do that. And then about 27 years later of him running this, Angus deems himself the hub's governor. At the same time, in 2120, when he deems himself the governor, this is about the same time that the water merchants pop up and get a strong foothold in the beginning of not just the hub, but the hub's economy. And they become a persistent name and force in the wasteland. Now, by the winter of 2125, Angus is assassinated. And that's according to the Fallout Bible. A lot of this goes back between what is said in game and what was written for the Fallout Bible. If you don't know what the Fallout Bible is, Chris Avallone and a few other people, I believe Tim Kaine is involved, sat down and wrote out the rules for what Fallout was going to be. And in the Fallout Bible, it says that in the winter of 2125, that Angus was assassinated, and they're never quite sure who did it. Because one man ruled over the hub, and he was so loved, respected, and trusted, the newly emerging settlement devolved into absolute chaos. He left what is referred to as a vacuum. He was a force. People looked up to him. People knew that he was a guy who knew what was going on, and people could trust him. And all of a sudden, he's gone. Just as soon as he was there, he's dead. And people don't know what to do. And by 2126, the great merchant wars were beginning to occur. All of the merchants and traders that were in the hub were in a physical, brutal, bloody, violent war. A large reason for this was control of the hub's water towers. Now, in the far end of the hub, there's the merchants row, where everyone who sells exists in the southernmost part of the hub, and the water towers there can distribute water out. And like I said at the beginning of this lore segment, if you control the water, you control the people. I can get away with about 3 to 5 days of not eating. I don't need to have sex. I don't need to smoke a cigarette. I don't need to do chems. I need to drink water. I have about 3 days before I really start losing it. I'm not, again, not me, royal me, saying it in a survivalist mentality. I have about 3 days before I'm starting to like my pee is gold. Like it is Crayola. Like it is a shade that should not exist. Water is the necessity. A group of merchants wanted to gain control of the water tower, so them and only them would control all of the water in the hub, and they could essentially just gouge everybody on the price and charge whatever they wanted, and this went on for about 3 years. Now, sometime in 2129, a fella by the name of Roy Green would broker a deal with the water merchants to put an end to all of this, to put an end to the loss of lives over water. This fellow Roy Green, who brokers this, the deal pretty much is like, we can't kill people over water. It's not really said on the wiki what his deal, his proposition is, but it's one of those like, we're going to continue to just kill one another over the idea of slaking one's thirst. Like, you need this to live. We're already charging probably more than we should. Why are we doing what we don't need to be doing? And this fellow, Roy Green, is actually the grandfather of the hub sheriff when you get there in 2161, a Justin Green. By the year 2161, the year that the Vault Dweller makes his way to the hub while looking for a water chip, over the next 30 some odd years, the fighting had stopped and the unnecessary violence was pretty much over. The Vault Dweller can infer with Butch Harris, the leader of the Fargo Trading Company, in the hub about its water. If you ask Brian Harris about it, Brian Harris will say it's south of the Merchant Market. The only source of water here and for a lot of the surrounding area. The water merchants own the whole damn thing. Those bastards, they think they own the damn hub just because they control the water. Before the Vault Dweller gets there, sometime during the 2150s, the water merchants want to broker a deal with the Brotherhood of Steel. And if you're here, I'm assuming you understand who the Brotherhood of Steel are. For the uninitiated, they are the big metal men, the large metallic monks, the massive metallic monks who have a grip on weapons and technology. They're the most fortified, they're the most organized, they understand what is going on pretty much at all times. More or less, they're focusing on their own efforts, but they have access to weapons and tech. And the water merchants want to broker a deal where they would trade a huge amount of water for a large stockpile of weapons. And the Brotherhood declined. The Brotherhood said, no, we will continue to buy what we need to buy. You don't have to trade with us in such a capacity. We'll buy the water from you. And they went to steal from them. The water merchants just thought it'd be smart to send thieves to Lost Hills to steal from the 8-foot men with Gauss rifles and plasma casters. They thought it'd be smart to just steal from the 8-foot men in armor that have plasma casters and laser rifles. They're just like, yeah, we could do this. Like, didn't think whatsoever. They were caught because, of course, and the elders voted to not punish the water merchants. And it's kind of a good thing for the water merchants and the hub that they didn't get punished, because if they were to have been punished for this, it could have been very much a scenario where it was hurtful to the water merchants. It could have killed all of them. It could have destroyed all of the water towers in the hub. It would have also ruined their reputation and could have potentially destroyed the hub. And that might have been what the elders of the Brotherhood, not the high elder Maxon 3 that's there, but the high elders, the council of elders that are there, voted to not go and attack the water merchants. When you meet John Maxon, you can ask him about the merchants and he'll say, you want to hear about the water merchants? Hehehehe. Well, you can't trust them. A few years ago, they offered us water for a huge stockpile of weapons. We told them no. You know what they did? They sent in thieves to steal the weapons. We caught them, but the elders voted down going to the hub to teach them a lesson. This even could have hindered the opinion of the BOS, of the Brotherhood, to other Wastelanders, and the other Wastelanders couldn't have seen the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood were never meant to be seen as a force for good. They were supposed to be mysterious. They wanted to stay out of politics. But there's no doubt in my mind, every now and again, one Brotherhood Knight helped out a waster just because they were in the way and was like, here's some caps or stims, please get away from me. I don't know. That's my own headcanon. And even after this, they still delivered water to Lost Hills. They still delivered water to the Brotherhood of Steel. Again, in 2161, Darian Hightower is now in charge of the water towers and is head of the Water Merchants Company. Since the Great Merchant Wars, they've become incredibly wealthy. And like I've been saying, if I have the water, I control everything. I control the price of everything. There's a really good game theorist video from back in the day talking about how water equals the amount of caps and is how it's kind of based off the American gold standard, and how a big reason why caps would have become the de facto currency of the Wasteland is because the Wasteland would have had a Silk Road type thing going on, and how Jet would have made its way from NCR territory all the way to the East Coast is because of this Silk Road. Like I said, the 5 things people need, one of them is drugs. They've been charging whatever they've wanted, more or less, for water, and this has given them the ire of the powerful crime boss Decker, who is voiced by Keith David. Just a little BTW. Decker can put a hit out on Darian Hightower in a ploy to take over the water merchant trade. The Vault Dweller can be a guard for the water merchants. You could be a guard for the other caravans as well. I know I've done Fargo, but they pay the worst because they know that people need it, and they can say, well, screw you, we'll pay whatever we want. It's a safer route, which is wild, so they must be paying somebody off along the way, but it's a safer route, and they only pay 200 caps both ways. You can also send water directly from the water merchants to Vault 13. So if you're playing the game for the first time, you're having a hard time finding the water chip, you can send water to Vault 13, but it only increases the days until they run out of water by 100 days. There's a glitch in like the original version of the game, the unpatched version, where it gives you 100 days, but also sets you back 100 days. Now, like I said, this is a huge settlement. This is the biggest settlement in Fallout 2. And the Vault Dweller talks about it. For Fallout 2's manual, it actually is the Vault Dweller's memoirs. It's his life story, everything he had been through. It kind of canonizes everything that happened in Fallout 1, leaves some things ambiguous, and then welcomes you into Fallout 2. This is also when games came with manuals, and a lot of people read the manuals, and it wasn't just press A to interact, press X to reload, press Y to jump. It was, here's these bits of lore, here's these pieces that'll help you traverse the game in a different way. The hub was a larger city than both Junktown and Shady Sands combined. You could drop the vault in there and you'd probably not notice. But the people of the hub had no life, and it was a desolate place, just the same. It eased my mind, however, to hire some of the merchants to bring water to the vault. Looking back, it probably was a mistake to do so, but I was still innocent to the evils that lurked in the ruins of civilization. The water merchants. If you can control something, you can control the people. It's as simple as that. These people said, I will make you beg, I will make you plead, I will make you feel like you need to deserve and earn every drop of H2O that will ever touch your lips. And because of it, a lot of innocents died. They're kind of a necessary evil. Kind of not. Kind of are, kind of not. Like I said, I've been playing Fallout 3, and at the end of Fallout 3, when the game gets to continue a bit, if you have Broken Steel installed, the Brotherhood is giving out water for free, and it is taxing everybody there. You can bring up the idea of, hey, maybe we should have these people pay, even if it's just enough to recoup our losses, but it is kind of that double-edged sword. It is kind of that, what are we going to do? People need this. I kind of have to charge. I don't have to charge. I shouldn't have to charge. I have to make it by in this day and age. I hope you enjoyed that. I love talking about Fallout 1 stuff, and it's not often that I get to go back to the OGs. But with all that being said, I hope you've enjoyed, because that is this week's lore. Hey everybody, wasn't that great? Didn't you enjoy that? A little bit of Fallout lore to start your day? Maybe midday Fallout lore? Hell, right before bedtime? Doesn't get any better than this. If you like this, check out the Patreon. There's a link in the description below. If you want to have your voice heard, if you want me to do a certain piece of lore, the best way to get in contact with me is through the Patreon. The people who are on screen right now. I gotta thank them. Thank you to these fine folks. Right now, because of them, the show can continue to grow and get bigger and better. And if you want to check it out, from the $1 tier to the $10 tier, your voice is heard every single week. I filmed the full Atomic Radio Hour podcast episodes live in our Discord. Hey, you know what? While you're here, check out the Discord. There should be a link in the description below. Check out my Twitter. Check out the show's Twitter. Come hang out. It's a good time. My name has been Vince. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you to the Patreon. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.